I've learned that fear rarely enters our lives loudly. It arrives quietly, like a shadow that slips into the corners when we stop paying attention. It sits beside us at breakfast, follows us through work, curls up at the end of the bed when the lights go out. Most days, we don't even notice it's there until we realize how small we've been living. Take a breath with me. In through your nose, hold, and out through your mouth. Again. This time, imagine each exhale making a little more space inside you. I remember a morning years ago when I realized how much of my life was shaped by fear. I was stirring sugar into my tea, the same routine I'd done for decades. The spoon tapped against the cup, and I suddenly thought, when was the last time I did something new without asking fear for permission? I couldn't answer. The silence that followed was heavy, but honest. Fear had become my companion, polite, reasonable, persuasive. It spoke in the voice of caution, of logic. Maybe not today, it would whisper. Wait until you're ready. But ready never came. I want you to think about that word, ready. How many times has it kept you waiting? Waiting to speak your truth. Waiting to leave something that no longer fits. Waiting to begin. The truth is, we don't become ready by waiting. We become ready by beginning. Fear is not the enemy. It's the echo of every time we've been hurt. It's the body remembering what it wants to avoid. But when fear becomes habit, we forget that life was never meant to be lived from avoidance. It was meant to be lived from aliveness. There was once a neighbor I called Miss Ellen. She was 83 when she told me this story. You know, she said, I spent 50 years being careful. Careful with money, careful with words, careful with dreams. Then one day, my hands began to shake from age, and I realized carefulness had never saved me from pain. It only saved me from living. Her words stayed with me. Sometimes fear dresses itself in responsibility. It tells us we're being sensible, but really, it's stealing our curiosity. Think back, when was the last time you felt curiosity tug at you, and you said no because it wasn't practical? Maybe it was a trip you postponed, a call you didn't make, a hobby you decided was too late. Fear sounds like logic, but its heart beats with insecurity. Let's try something simple together. Close your eyes if you can. Picture yourself at a crossroads. One path is wide and familiar, lined with signs that say, safe, predictable, known. The other is narrow, slightly overgrown, but you can hear birds there. Your feet know which one they want. Notice what happens in your chest. That flutter? That's not danger, that's life. Whenever you feel that flutter, I want you to say quietly, this is what freedom feels like at first. It just feels unfamiliar. There's a little boy I once met at a park. He was trying to climb a tree that looked far too tall for him. His mother called out, "Be careful!" And he answered, "I'll be careful, but I'll still climb." That's courage in its purest form, not fearlessness, but movement with fear. As adults, we forget how to climb. We learn to calculate, to wait for perfect weather, for a sign, for someone's approval. But life keeps whispering. Up here, the view is waiting. If you're listening tonight because fear has held you too long, I want you to know this. Letting go isn't a single act. It's a rhythm, 1,000 small releases that together make room for breathing again. Sometimes, it's as tiny as saying no when you've always said yes. Sometimes it's putting your phone down and stepping outside to feel the air. Sometimes it's forgiving yourself for the years you lost to hesitation. Letting go begins when you stop trying to eliminate fear and start understanding it. I often imagine fear as a small child tugging at my sleeve. It doesn't need punishment, it needs comfort. So when fear shows up, instead of saying, "Go away," try whispering, "I see you. You're trying to protect me, but we're okay now." You might be surprised fear quiets down when it's acknowledged. So for tonight, just practice seeing where fear hides in your ordinary life. In the choices, in the silence, in the way you shrink. And each time you notice, take one slow breath. That breath is you turning toward freedom. Because living freely doesn't mean you never tremble. It means you tremble and move anyway. Sometimes, when I think about fear, I picture it as a long road that bends out of sight. We walk it for years, certain it will eventually end, but it rarely does. What changes is how we walk it. I've learned that peace doesn't come from defeating fear. It comes from befriending it. There was a time in my life when I was afraid of almost everything: loss, rejection, even happiness. Happiness felt risky, as though joy might draw attention from fate. So, I held back. I laughed quietly, loved cautiously, and prayed softly, afraid that anything too loud might disappear. But life has a way of asking for our full voice. One day, it asked for mine. It was a phone call. My sister's voice broke the news. Our mother had fallen ill. There was no time to prepare. For months, I'd feared losing her. And when the moment came, I discovered something strange: fear dissolved in presence. There was no room for it when I was holding her hand. Only love remained. That's the first truth about fear. It loses its power in the present moment. Fear lives in the what-ifs, not in the what-is. Try this with me. Bring to mind something you've been worrying about. See it clearly. Now, narrow your focus to this very moment. Feel the ground beneath your feet, the air in your lungs, the sound of your breath. In this moment, are you safe? In this exact second, is there a threat? For most of us, the answer is no. Fear whispers about a future that isn't here yet. The body's safety and the mind's stories rarely match. When you return to the present, fear has nothing to hold on to. You begin to walk lighter. I once met an older man named Joseph. He told me he'd spent 40 years afraid to travel. Airplanes, he said. I couldn't even look at them. But when his daughter moved abroad, love became stronger than fear. The day he boarded that flight, he told himself, if fear can live with me for 40 years, surely I can live with it for a few hours. When he landed and saw his daughter waiting, he cried, "All those years I waited to live," he said. And the sky was beautiful the whole time. Landredder, he was whited with 30 Y foursome. Fear's greatest trick is convincing us that caution is safety. But safety without growth is just stagnation dressed in comfort. You don't need to banish fear, you need to walk beside it. When fear says, "Don't go," answer, "Come with me." Each time you do something fearful, the walls shift a little further outward, and the next time, the fear will still be there, but smaller, like a familiar tune you once found haunting, but now hum along to. I think of freedom as a quiet courage. It doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like steady breathing. It sounds like a small laugh breaking through worry. It feels like reaching for someone's hand even when your voice shakes. Once, I watched my friend Ruth stand up at a memorial and read a letter to her late husband. Her hands trembled so much that the paper rattled. When she finished, she looked at me and whispered, "I didn't think I could do that." I said, "You didn't do it without fear. You did it with fear." She smiled through tears. That's the only way, isn't it? It is. Letting go of fear isn't erasing it. It's loosening the grip it has on your choices. You start saying yes to moments that matter. Yes to calling someone you miss. Yes to learning something new. Yes to forgiving yourself. Fear will always have an opinion. You just stop letting it have a vote. There's a woman I once met in a small writing class. She told us she'd been writing letters to herself since her 20s, every time she was afraid. She'd fold them neatly and keep them in a shoebox. On her 70th birthday, she opened them all. The first line in every letter was the same: "I'm scared." But what came after was always something different. "I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway." She said reading those letters was like watching herself become free in slow motion. Each fear had passed. Each "I can't" had turned into a "I did." Maybe you could try the same. Write your fears down, not to dwell on them, but to see them clearly. Paper shrinks monsters. Ink gives them boundaries. When you can name fear, you can face it. Sometimes fear disguises itself as control. We make endless lists, fixate on outcomes, or replay conversations, as if perfection could protect us. But perfection is just another name for fear of not being enough. I've learned that real freedom begins with imperfection, with letting yourself be seen as you are. The first time I cried in front of someone and didn't apologize, I felt lighter. The world didn't end. I didn't shrink. I was still me, just freer. So if you've been trying to hold everything together, maybe today's the day you let one thing fall apart. You might discover that nothing important breaks. There's a quiet confidence that grows when you stop hiding your trembling. When you say, "This is me scared, but here." That's real strength. Fear loses its teeth when you stop pretending it isn't there. And as we move through this hour together, I want to leave you with a thought. Freedom doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly the morning you wake up and realize you didn't worry about yesterday. The evening you laugh without replaying every word. The moment you choose curiosity over comfort. That's what living freely feels like. Not dramatic, not loud, but peaceful. Like coming home to yourself. There's a quiet that comes after fear. It doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It just arrives like the stillness after a long storm. When everything smells clean again. That quiet is freedom. It's not the absence of fear. It's the presence of peace. I've learned that peace doesn't demand that life be perfect. It only asks that we show up honestly. When I stopped fighting my fears and started listening to them, they softened. They stopped being walls and became windows showing me what mattered most. For years, I thought living freely meant doing grand things, taking risks, traveling far, changing everything overnight. But living freely isn't about the size of your actions. It's about the sincerity of them. It's waking up each day and choosing truth over pretending, presence over distraction, love over self-protection. That's freedom, and it's built one gentle choice at a time. I remember a woman named Clara who came to one of my talks. She said, "I've spent my whole life avoiding what scares me. I'm 72, and I don't want to die careful." I asked her what she was most afraid of. She smiled sadly, of being happy again. We spoke for an hour, and at the end, she said, "Maybe happiness isn't something we earn. Maybe it's something we allow." She was right. Fear keeps us measuring, earning, and qualifying. But joy just wants permission. And the moment you whisper yes, it begins to return. I want you to imagine yourself standing at the edge of a field at sunrise. The world is quiet. The grass is cool beneath your feet. You've been carrying something heavy, maybe worry, maybe regret. Feel the weight of it one last time. And then, when you're ready, let it go. You don't need to throw it far. Just set it down. You've carried it long enough. Sometimes letting go doesn't mean leaving. It means loosening your grip enough to breathe again. There was a time when I thought I had to conquer fear to be brave. Now I know courage is quieter. It's forgiving yourself for the years you spent running. It's choosing to begin again even when your knees still shake. Freedom doesn't mean never being afraid. It means knowing you are bigger than what frightens you. Every person I've ever met who found peace said the same thing. It wasn't about changing who they were, it was about finally allowing themselves to be. They stopped chasing certainty. They stopped waiting to be ready. They started living as they were, where they were, with what they had. That's when life began to love them back. If you're listening right now, I want you to remember something simple and true. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply becoming. Fear slows us down so we can learn tenderness. Failure humbles us so we can learn empathy. And freedom waits until we've grown gentle enough to receive it. I've seen people rebuild their lives at 60, 70, even 80. Age doesn't disqualify you, it deepens you. Fear tells us that time is running out. Wisdom tells us that time is what makes everything precious. Every sunrise you witness, every laugh you share, every truth you finally speak, those are small freedoms blooming. You're already living more freely than you think. Sometimes I sit by the window in the evening and watch the world grow quiet. I think of all the people out there, carrying invisible fears, and I whisper a small prayer for them. May your fear turn into understanding. May your worry turn into wonder. May you rest in the peace you've been chasing. Because peace isn't found, it's remembered. There's something I wish someone had told me when I was younger. Fear doesn't end all at once. It fades slowly, the way winter becomes spring. At first, you only notice small signs. A softer breath, an easier laugh, a single moment where you don't brace for what's next. Those are the first flowers of freedom. Don't overlook them, and one day, you'll realize that fear still visits, but it doesn't stay. You'll open your door, greet it kindly, and go on with your day. That's when you'll know you've learned to live freely. Before we close, I want you to take one more deep breath. Inhale hope. Exhale fear. Do it again slowly, fully. Let the air remind you that life has always wanted you to stay. Wherever you are listening, from a quiet room, a long drive, a sleepless night, know this. You are not alone in learning how to let go. We are all learning together. Some days we stumble, some days we soar, but every day we have the chance to start again. And that is the gift of being alive. If this journey has touched your heart, carry one truth with you. Fear will knock, but you decide whether it stays. You are the keeper of your own freedom. Now rest, breathe, and let your heart remember what peace feels like. This is Aging with Wisdom. Thank you for walking with me. Until we meet again, may you live freely, and may you live with love.